Bueno, vamos a platicar con el doctor Andrew Hipp, a quien podemos catalogar como un científico, un artista, un escritor y un divulgador de la ciencia. Él trabaja como genetista y sistemático en el Morton Arboretum y es también el director del herbario ahí, además de que da clases y supervisa a estudiantes en la Universidad de Chicago. Su investigación se enfoca a varios aspectos de la biodiversidad vegetal, particularmente a reconstruir filogenias, es decir, las relaciones de parentesco entre diversos grupos de plantas. Y entre sus proyectos actuales, él tiene nada más y nada menos que filogenia de los encinos del mundo, filogenia de Carex del mundo, que es uno de los genes más grandes de plantas, 2.000 especies, estudios sobre origen de especies, sobre hibridación, sobre diversificación en diversos grupos. Él hace también florística de una región por ahí de los Grandes Lagos en Estados Unidos y también hace estudios sobre cómo la biodiversidad es importante, cómo influye en la conservación y en la restauración de ecosistemas. Y entonces sus estudios sobre genómica resuelven muchos problemas en evolución, en ecología y también generan bases de conocimiento para conservación y para manejo de nuestro ambiente, ¿no? Además de todo esto, él dedica tiempo a ser divulgador de la ciencia, a ser comunicador de la ciencia y hace con su grupo de trabajo, pues ha escrito varios libros, hacen talleres, hacen diversas actividades para niños y para población en general. Entonces, bueno, algunas de sus obras han sido traducidas al español, al francés, al italiano, ¿right?
Sí.
Sí. Y bueno, estamos aprovechando una visita que está haciendo el doctor Hipp aquí, una visita de trabajo al herbario civil, para preguntarle sobre sus experiencias, sus perspectivas sobre varios temas, ¿no? Andrew, we very much appreciate you deciding to do this interview and also to share with us your perspectives on different issues. Particularly, what is your perspective about the importance of the accurate knowledge of plant biodiversity to make management and conservation?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. This is a real honor to be able to speak with you. I always love coming down here to work in your herbarium and to work with your colleagues and you, of course, and to be able to talk with your group today is fantastic.
We are very happy to do this.
So when I think about why plants, like why study plants, plants are foundational to the ecosystems that we depend on and that we love. And so an understanding of plant diversity at the species level, what the species are, at the community level, what species assemblages are, and who's interacting with whom, which species are interacting with whom. That's foundational to everything that we want to do with conservation. And it is for two reasons. One is that, as Alvin Leopold famously said, the first rule of intelligent tinkering is keeping all the pieces, right?
Exactly.
If you want to be able to assemble ecosystems through ecological restoration, if you want to be able to conserve the pieces, you have to know what's there.
Exactly.
So I think that's essential. And so I think of plant biodiversity studies as being this bedrock foundation of everything that we want to do for conserving and understanding the ecosystem. But the second reason for it, to my thinking, is that we develop a love for the natural world through a love for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to know a plant in a given place. Perhaps it's a tree that you've grown up with. Perhaps it's a field that you played in. Understanding those pieces and getting an affection for them, like we develop friendships in kindergarten, we develop friendships in adulthood. That's how we then ratchet up and to ethical decisions that involve the whole community.
Absolutely.
You start with individuals and then you work your way to groups of individuals and then organizations. And I think that for me, I'm in this field because I love those organisms and I love those places. And so, to me, again, understanding the individuals that make up the plant biodiversity is the foundation for the conservation.
Absolutely.
And coming to know those individuals, that distinction between knowing versus knowing about. I'm more interested in knowing those individuals so that we can, because I love them. And that's how we develop that affection for the natural world.
Absolutely. That is why we say conocer para.
Sí,
Si tú conoces, vas a manejar bien y vas a amar y vas a querer conservar.
It's the same
right?
distinction in French. It's the connaître versus savoir. To know, connaître, savoir, to know about.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. How you arrive to this stage in your career? You are a world leader in systematics, in phylogenetics, but also you are a great communicator of science. How you reach this point? Can you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I would never have imagined that I would end up doing this. Like when I was in high school, I had turned my back on science because I wasn't excited about it. I thought that science was all about memorizing facts, and I just hadn't any particular interest in it, but I liked the natural world. And so I turned to the humanities, turned to writing and teaching, and these are the things that really gave me a lot of excitement, but I liked being outside. And at some point, I realized that there was an opportunity to potentially get a job doing education and studying the natural world while being, doing this kind of thing to be outside. So I took botany classes only as a vehicle to maybe getting a job outdoors. But then it turns out that I really liked botany. Until I was 22, I guess, I had never taken a formal taxonomy course. I had no idea what plants there were. Oh, I knew nothing. I mean, I literally didn't know the difference at the age of 21 between a spruce tree and a pine tree. And I'm certain of that because I remember looking at the spruce trees and looking at, thinking like, some of these pines have such short needles. But I wanted to understand. I went into it to just to get the job outdoors. But then I got excited about botany. I liked these things, and I found that when I could know individual species, then I would, if I knew their names, I would recognize them in the field, and I could get to know what a sugar maple does, what a big blue stem does, what wild ginger does. And so the knowledge of these individual organisms, these species, by way of the organisms that make them, opened up the world to me and made it more interesting and exciting. And so I did that. So then I ended up getting my undergraduate in English and creative writing, but I had a lot of botany courses, got a job as a ranger and a naturalist. And so I was teaching. I was working as a naturalist at a preschool in Madison and as an educator naturalist in Madison, Wisconsin, where I would work with the public, with retirees, with young kids, with people my own age, just doing natural history education. But I didn't know enough evolution to do the things I wanted to do, to tell the stories I wanted to tell. This deep, long story that was little by little becoming apparent to me that connected all the species. So I went back to graduate school just to understand that. I had come to this point now where I'd say, okay, there's all these individual species, I'm excited about them. There are communities, I'm excited about them. But somewhere beneath there, behind the surface, there's a tree of life, this history going back. And I had only the dimmest idea. Does it go back millions of years, hundreds of millions of years? I didn't know. So I thought I'd better go get a proper biology degree. And that's why I got my PhD.
Wonderful. So you were first on this creative writing and doing and then you were curious about the tree of life.
That's right.
And
yes.
That is amazing because now he's one of the most known scientists in knowing the roots of the tree. And the branches of the tree
Twigs
of life.
and leaves.
Yeah, wonderful. Then, Well, I was going to ask you about the activities that you and your team do for the general public, but before that, um, you mentioned already about your first job as a naturalist.
Yeah.
So, I am going to ask, what kind of activities you do in the Morton for communication of science and so, because you made this very, very deep knowledge studies on phylogenomics and that is part of your lab. That is the main part of your lab.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That is
yes.
But then, what kind of activities do you do for for children or for?
I feel like I feel like for whatever. So, yes, from graduate school, I went into this position that I have now at the Morton Arboretum, where I conduct research on systematics in the tree of life, hybridization, speciation, implications of the tree of life for community assembly, and then also directing the herbarium, like yourself, like where we have a biodiversity collection that is representative of the Chicago region, as well as woody plants of the temperate zone worldwide. But all of that research is really, I think, accessible to people, but they don't know it.
Exactly.
People don't know that the tree of life, that many people do, but not everyone does, understand that the tree of life shapes all of us and connects us to all
we
our
are part
lives.
of.
Exactly, and I think people want to know that. People want to, and have an inkling from the news, from popular science publications, from television documentaries and things like that, that there is a tree of life and that it connects us. And what my thought is to provide people sort of opportunities to get to know bits and pieces of the tree of life better. Right? So whether it's kindergartners, whether it's, I work extensively with a group of high school students who are in advanced placement biology. We have retirees who work with us as volunteers, and we have members of the general public who come in. And I work with graduate students and postdocs. No matter who it is, the problems are exactly the same. The challenges are the same, which is finding out where people are and giving them a point of entry into the tree of life. To say, like, what are the things here? And for some people, they need to know how to identify sedges. So we do workshops for practitioners that help you just understand what the species are of sedges in our local region, where they grow, so that they can do work that helps to delineate wetlands or to make management decisions. For sometimes I work with a group of kids, and they need to know what the trees are in their backyard, and what those trees give to the squirrels, and give to the insects, and give to the fungi, and how the fungi and the insects and the birds give back to them. And how trees are in competition with each other, but then also form a community where they can all live. So my approach, I find all education and all working with students equally challenging, whether it's preschoolers or graduate students. I spend about the same amount of time preparing, because when I was writing children's books, these children's books were 1,200 words, so that's nothing. That's like 110 pages, words per page, right? I would spend so much time reading and studying to be able to write those competently. And then when I recently wrote a notebook for grown-ups, for adults, that I want to be readable for researchers as well as for the lay public, that also took hours and hours of reading. It all takes time to explain this stuff well, because no matter, it's all the same stuff. It's the tree of life, and it's species and organisms interacting, and it's just how much background information do you have to understand. Let's pick up where you left off. It's almost like when you go to piano lessons and you sit down and your teacher says, well, how much did you practice this last week? You say, well, I didn't practice very much. And if you're piano teacher is a good teacher. I was lucky, I had a good piano teacher, Joan Wildman. She would say, well, show me where you are this week. And that's what education is like. It's like, where are you right now? And let's pick up right there, and let's walk forward.
Correct.
I don't know if that answered your question. I don't know what your question was now.
No, it was related to the kind of activities like lectures or perhaps workshops and so on. But it is this thing about spending so much time, so much energy, just focusing on how to communicate people the importance of the real life and the importance of understanding that we are part of the real life.
That's
because
right.
that is the key for communicating science. People, general public, understanding that we are part of that, and in that way, I think we can conserve or manage the best possible our environment. So that is perfect. Thank you.
And I think people really get it by way of hands-on stuff, things they can touch. So the herbarium, I'm very lucky to work with Marlena Hahn and Lindsay Wooster, who run our herbarium and our research program respectively, and they're extremely good about getting specimens and things that people can touch into their hands. And people can look through herbarium specimens, hold acorns, do leaf rubbings, whatever it is, whatever their age is, handle, some of them, work with a microscope. When people can touch, use, see, as much as you can engage people with real stuff, that's how they understand that stuff, then those are the leaves of the tree of life. And we are too.
Fantastic. So we need to separate some materials for this. Okay, perfect. Andrew, there is some advice that you can give to youngsters to face the challenges that everybody faces in their professional career. What can you say to people, especially in Mexico, that we are having so many trouble in several aspects? What could you say to youngsters, like to do better in their professional career?
That's a really great question and a challenge to know, because the variety of challenges that people face are super broad.
Yeah.
And I only know my experience and the experience of my students. But I would say one commonality is to find something that you love and dive into it as deeply as you can, insofar as you have the time and the ability to. So it's sometimes you have to just get a job to pay the bills, right? And I get that. But when you're in your schooling and you have the time, when you're in your job and you've got an opportunity to dive into a project, find the thing that you love the most. There's always more. You can never get everything done. I will go to the grave with more undone and done. That's how it is. The world is huge. But find something you love and dive into it and just go. Just chase that thing and keep loving it. And keep exploring as much as you can and as deeply as you can, and trust your judgment. When you have the capacity to work on the things that you love the most, trust your inclination to say, I love this thing, so I'll follow that, if you're able to. Instead of, well, there's this thing that maybe I should do this, so I'll do that. Trust the one that you love the most, and try and follow that. People will always tell you, well, you ought to do this, you ought to do this. And again, sometimes you have to wash the dishes. Sometimes you have to get a job to pay the bills. But as much as possible, follow the thing you love and trust your judgment. Nobody knows you as well as you do.
Okay. Then the last question that I had was, what would you advise to anybody, to old people or young people or children, to what is your advice or advices to get a more fulfilling life? But I think you already answered that, because it is like something like that, or what do you think?
That's a big one.
Yeah, that is a philosophy for going to heaven.
That's a big one. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
what the
too
answer
much.
is. No. It's. I mean, my view is to dive into those things that you love and pursue them wholeheartedly, without being too. We have responsibilities in the world. I have a responsibility to do good in the world, but I can do good in many, many ways. There's not one way of doing that. And for me, teaching, writing, doing research, and helping people to have opportunities to experience the natural world, that's some place where I can do good. And I know when I'm doing that well, because at the end of the day, I can see what good products look like. So I don't know except to say, find the things where you can maximize, sort of the good you can do and your ability to appreciate the world in the ways that you most appreciate, and follow those. I think there's always people are always going to have good advice for you, well-meaning advice about what you should do, but ultimately, use your own nose. Say, that seems like, okay, that person said I should do that, that sounds, there's some pieces I like there. The person said I should do that, there's some good pieces there. But ultimately, I have to decide myself, and so which one smells right, which one looks right, and then follow it. Trust your own intuition, because nobody knows your life except for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. But listen, also listen.
Yeah, listen and learning, continually learning, not only technical things, but trying to do as much as possible, trying to see all the ways that you can find to do better. So thank you very much, Andrew. Would you like to add something? I would like you to say like something just
Sure. This has been a delight to talk with you, and I guess to anybody who's out there, I feel very fortunate to have been able to spend a career studying the natural world. And whether that's your thing or not, I hope that you're able to find something that you're very, very excited about and pursue it as far as you can.
Ojalá. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias, César. Muchas gracias, Daniel, que estuvo ahí atrás.
Gobierno de México.